Thanks very much. Does anybody here not know what outlaw dirty money refers to? Awesome. Oh, okay. Okay, so back in 2018, we had a citizens initiative that we started to to have a vote, to let all Arizona voters vote on making campaign donations, election contributions, transparent back to the source. I'm trying to make it as concise as I possibly can. The legislature, bless their hearts, found some sneaky loophole and pulled the rug out from under us, even though we had it, we thought we had it in the bag. We're doing it again, okay? So we have a petition over here that I hope you all have or will sign. It's nonpartisan. It basically, and now this time we're going for a constitutional amendment. We want to make it so that we know if APS is putting money into so-and-so's campaign or the Koch brothers or whatever, because right now the way it is, they can put money into a PAC with some, lovely, fluffy, generic Democratic name, and that money then goes into elections, and we don't know where that came from. Okay, so that's one of the most impactful things that we can do to change the state of our democracy right now. Okay. We are part of a larger group called Tapestry, which used to be called Woman Song, and we just have a short song to sing with you, for you.
Well, it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you. And I know you might have a heavy load, but I can carry some too. I will lift you up when they push you down. I will raise my voice and stand my ground. Well, it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you. And it looks like it might be a long night, but I ain't going nowhere. And I know it's gonna be a hard fight, but I will stay right here. I will shine a light in the darkest hour. I will face the man in the tallest tower. Well, it looks like it might be a long night, but I ain't going nowhere. I will work, I will fight, I will strive in the name of love. I will speak, I will shout, I will sing it to the skies above. Well, it looks like it might be a perilous climb, but I will follow your lead. And I know it might be a long time before the last one of us is free. But I will hold on tight, stay by your side. I will be with you for this whole damn ride. Well, it looks like it might be a perilous climb, but I will follow your lead. Well, it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you. And I know you might have a heavy load, but I can carry some too. I will lift you up when they push you down. I will raise my voice and stand my ground. Well, it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you. I'm gonna walk it with you. I'm gonna walk it with you. I will walk, I will climb, shine my light the whole night through. Because it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you.
like to introduce to you tonight a young lady that Jay Ruby and Jeff and I have had the pleasure of meeting with this afternoon. And this is Xenia Arona. Yeah, I'm sorry. Xenia Arona, like Corona without the C. And Xenia is the Latinx caucus chair for the Arizona Democratic Party. And she's going to work with us on Latino outreach in Yavapai County and how we can do a better job of that. And she's also going to be collaborating with us for our Culture Equity event in September. Xenia?
Thank you, John. Trying to avoid feedback here. So it is my great pleasure to be with you today. This is all very impromptu, so it's serendipity almost that I was able to come to this meeting. Like John said, I am the chair for the Arizona Democratic Party Latinx caucus, and I started my political journey a very, very long time ago. It feels like a very long time ago. So when I was 16, which you wouldn't be able to tell just by looking at me, I'm a little bit older than you might think. But when I was 16, okay, hold on, let me back up a little bit. So I was born and raised in Maryville, which is a village of Phoenix, Arizona. It's in the West Valley. It's a primarily Latino community. I graduated from a high school where I could probably count on two hands how many white people there were in my high school. My graduating class was of 400 people, 98% of them were either immigrant-born, Latino, Spanish surname, you name it. So when I was in high school, I did something dumb and I fell in love, as you tend to do. And when I was 16, my then love of my life and we attended a quinceañera. And it was a family party. We were having fun, dancing, and by the time that we got ready to go home, I was unable to pull my car out of a parking lot. And so, help me out. My boyfriend, he got in the driver's seat. He pulled us out of the tight spot, and we drove off a little bit. There was a police officer looking for people to arrest that night. And we got pulled over, and my heart dropped. And I wanted to throw up because my boyfriend was undocumented. So at 16 years old, in my car, where I'm the licensed driver, and he is 100% unable to get a license. And at this point, Joe Arpaio is doing raids. Phoenix PD is right behind him. And all this is running through my head as I'm asking myself, how am I going to tell his mom that he is on his way to being deported right now? So he gets taken out of the car, walked to the squad car, and the police officer talks to him. I'm straining my ears. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And thankfully, by the grace of the universe, grace of God, whoever you pray to, we were let go that night. And we were able to continue on in our lives. So it was in that moment that I realized that even though I was 16, even though I was just some high school kid, growing up in the hood, around people that looked like me, I needed to do something. And so when, in 2010, 2 years later, my high school walked out, and after that, I got involved. I worked with Promise Arizona and the Arizona Dream Act Coalition to get Russell Pierce, the author of SB 1070, booted from office. And the work continued. How do we bring dignity to our people? How do we make it so there's in-state tuition for Dreamers? How do we make it so my tia and my boyfriend, who is now my husband, don't have to worry about a flat tire or a wrong left turn or a run stop sign is going to lead them to leave a country that they have been in since they were 6, since they were 10, that they haven't left in decades. So I kept going, I kept working, and in 2016, we saw the model that Arizona put together get taken nationwide. And so that's why I'm here today. And that's why I continue to do the work. And even though we've had some very solid and very good victories here in Arizona, the work continues. So, like I said, it was very serendipitous that I came up here. With the caucus, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it so in Maricopa County, the model that we set forth there on how to fight back, that's taken statewide. That Arizona becomes the model of how to fight back against this rhetoric of hate, against the terror that is being spread across the country, across immigrant communities. And I'm before you today so I can get your help. You guys are experts in your own issues. You guys are experts, you know your terrain, you know your people. You guys have networks that I could never even imagine. And so, as a Latinx caucus, we're looking to establish local grassroots level groups that come together on the county level and come together on the state level to inform the decisions and the policy and the elected officials and get the people that we need involved. Because this momentum has to keep going. We're gonna turn Arizona blue. And the work starts here, in rural Arizona, in red districts, in red counties, because here, we're everywhere. This is a room of what, 30, 40 people? 60 people. Who would have thought that about 2.5 years ago there were 60 Dems, 60 liberals, 60 progressives that could get together in a room, and there's more of us. So I'm going to stay. I'm going to be here until the meeting ends. Reach out to me. I'm going to be reaching back. I will be at the County Dems meeting on Thursday. I would also be coming to events on Friday, and I'll be trying to meet with as many people as possible so we can see how we can use the strengths that are in this room to make change happen in 2020. Thank you.
Provide us with a Phoenix legislative vote. Date.
All right. Let's give another applause to her, actually. Come on. All right. And I mean this in full honesty. I spend way too much of my life digging through the drudges of legislation for people like you. And it's people like you and your stories that allows me to take on just hatred. I mean, I've been called everything from betrayer of my race to you name it, and taking a 3x4 in the head from a white supremacist. So, you know, I'm not one to parse words. What is happening to our immigrant population is a human rights violation under the UN Convention, period. It's not, there's no debate about this. The only reason we're able to get away with it is because we're the US. If it were any other country, with Germany and doing this, we would be brought before hearings. All right, the second people I want to give applause to is all you people. I don't have a lot of legislative update because legislative session has ended, but we have seen we've stopped so many bad bills. There's some that got through, but we've stopped so many bad bills, attacks on voter rights, attacks on education and free expression, all sorts of things. And that's because all of you have been making calls, texting, going outside of your comfort zone, and so I'm in awe of that. Because for me, I grew up with tech. I mean, I basically was a baby with it. Some people I've met out here have, never had a cell phone outside of a flip phone, and they're on Twitter, and they're on sending emails, and they're making calls, and I'm just impressed with you all. So another applause or whatever for you. There's a couple things that I want to give you that's on what's in the budget, because it passed last Friday. So we got the 5% increase, which was originally cut, by the way, for teachers for the toward 2020. It's not enough, and the people from education will tell you that. It's a joke. When you're last in the nation on pay for your teachers, it's not enough. 5% of too tiny is not. And furthermore, we didn't get anything outside of that raise. And I can tell you, when teachers still have to buy school supplies for their it's just insane. That's one of the reasons we're losing good teachers to other states. And one of the things that I'm really upset about that was in the budget that we need to keep an eye on because of how they're going to use it is, we put up a big fight and we won the head of elections, Hoffman, right? They stole a bunch of her, Katie Hobbs. They stole a bunch of her money and stuck it in the AG's office. They just moved it over. Instead of giving election services, they are doing voter fraud investigations. Because they couldn't find any, so they're going to spend $500,000 on trying to look for them. So keep an eye on what that really translates to is voter suppression and intimidation. And usually it's to Hispanic, Black, Native American. That's who's going to get investigated. So we need to be allies to that. All right. Otherwise, most of the budget issues, that's the big flame. There was a permanent tax cut that put in that made no sense. We're spending money to send a trade delegate to Israel. Yeah, that was a little special. So, and by special I mean special interest. So those are the big things on that front. I want to talk to, and again, I don't parse words, so I guess this is going to have to be a trigger warning. What's going on in Missouri? And the reason I have to bring that up is because it's actually been done through administrative law, not through legislative law, which means that our governor, who is watching it and has said he likes the idea, could push it through. So we have to watch very closely with what's going on with the courts. There's two components. One, it's a trap law that they're trying to shut down the last abortion clinic. But the second thing, and the thing that touches me and hurts me deeply, is that basically women to get their constitutional right, and I always give a civics lesson, so I'll go into that second, to an abortion, are having to submit themselves to sexual assault. And I call it that because that's what it is. If I worked at a Title X clinic, and if I did what they have to do in order to get their abortion, I would be on trial for sexual assault. That is what it is. And, Planned Parenthood, who I've actually worked for, is doing a good job on their suits, doing two arguments. My guess is the judge is not going to make an argument or rule on Roe v. Wade. He's going to make a rule on separation of powers. And that's because judges, unfortunately, this judge is kind of a coward. He doesn't want to have his thing challenged or overturned. The problem with that is that still leaves it wide open and gives feed to Republicans to try to push it as legislative. But if he doesn't make a rule or he says that they can do that through the public health department, expect to see something like that in Arizona. Because our governor wants to be known as the most pro-life state in the union. He said that several times. So we need to watch that and watch out for that. So watch your emails, updates, we'll push that through, for what. And then I also want to make one last note, which is, you're all wearing the orange bands, and I assume most of you know what it stands for, what you stand for, but I want to be really clear on that, so as you go and talk to people about it, what it is. That's Every Town for Gun Safety, and what it basically is it's not, you're going to get called an anti-gun or something like that. I mean, if you look at my picture, I've been wearing this a long time. I actually worked on some of the policy proposals for this group. It is an evidence-based way of trying to reduce both the severity and incidence of gun violence. It is looking at suicide prevention, it is looking at homicide prevention, it is looking at mass shooting prevention. I was in evaluation and planning for the city of Philadelphia, and we could make an estimate of over 80% accuracy given three things of how many fatalities there would be. That was how long the shooting went, how dense the population, and the type of firearm used. So you cannot tell me regulating the firearm doesn't change that, because we can tell you how many deaths there are from that. So again, I'm sorry, this is really heavy stuff, but and so I wanted to mention what a right is, because people are treating it like an entitlement and they don't understand that. What a constitutional right is under the law is it is a limitation on the government to interfere with private activity without a compelling interest under strict scrutiny. That is the legal definition. So if you can demonstrate a compelling interest, I think children dying is a pretty compelling interest. A rational basis, which is basically saying this does work, i.e. it works in other places, then you have met that threshold under the law. And that's the same, it's ironic to me that they're using those limitations on what a right is to go after women, but saying that it's absolute on guns. It's crazy. So, when you talk about it, from wherever you come from, you can talk about how you do. This group is looking at mental health and trying to get more mental health in schools. It's looking at, recidivism and mass incarceration. It's looking at the type of firearm use. I mean, if you're talking about just the firearm, you're at the last stage. I mean, really, you're talking about severity. So there's a whole spectrum. It's looking at fair housing. It's looking at all those types of things, because these are all interconnected. I have to make one last plug on environmental. We need to keep pushing this idea of talking about this with our candidates as they come up, talking about stuff that's connected. I disagree with, and this is my own opinion, so I'm stepping away from Indivisible for a second. They don't have a position on this, to my knowledge. We need to have a debate on environmental. We need to have that be a focused. The Democratic State Party has decided not to. Don't stress John out. I think he's behind it, but let him know that you support the effort to try to get an environmental, because environmental is economic, and environmental is education. An environmental, so it's not that it's only environment and whatever. Though this state is the state where solar makes the most sense. Solar is actually cheapest in this state because of how much sun we get. I just was looking at a report with the new panels. It's cheaper than any other. It's cheaper than coal.
300 plus days of sun.
Yeah. And so, I want to close on a positive note, which is just, I am astonished. I've worked in Arizona, I've worked in Pennsylvania, I've worked in Ohio, I've worked in state, federal. I worked on the Obama campaign, and I've seen you guys and the people rallying behind this as some of the most connected, involved, caring, compassionate people I've ever had the privilege to work with, and I want to thank you all for that.
And I want to let you know that Team Twitter has mobilized, and we are in full effect and moving forward. Okay, and so if you are not a part of Team Twitter yet, you are cordially invited to become a part of Team Twitter. If you think that your voice matters in the world, there's nothing better that you can do than become a part of Team Twitter, because we are all together amplifying our voices and amplifying the voice of Prescott Indivisible. Just a quick example, Maria Elena just mentioned this poll that GoStar came out with, and so we let them know how we felt about that on Twitter, and so did a bunch of other people as well. So now when I say Team Twitter, what I'm talking about is that we have started trainings and Q&As. We have already done several. They've been well attended. We have new people coming every time. Mavis Brower and myself are the ones who are facilitating that, and Mavis sends her regards. She can't be here this evening, but she says to make sure and say hi to everybody. And she also wanted to let everybody know that we have some upcoming trainings and Q&As. So the next one is on June 11th. It's at the library, at the Elsia room, or it's actually, the next one is at the conference room upstairs, from 1:30 to 3:30. Then after that, on June 26th, at the library again, 10 a.m. to 11:30. And then following that, July 3rd, also at the library, 10 to 12, and that is a Q&A. So if you are curious, if you have any questions, if you want to learn more of how you can amplify your voice, that's a great place to start. There's a lot of support there. Generally, what Mavis does is she has a little sign-up sheet, so we kind of know who to expect. And if you are interested, you can contact her at her email, mavisbrower@aol.com. That is Mavis, M-A-V-I-S, Brower, B-R-A-U-E-R, @aol.com. And we would love to see you there and keep it going. We've got a good start, but we got a long ways to go. There's no question about it. We got a long ways to go. But what's good is the start that we have. We are really wanting to get momentum heading into the election cycle in 2020. Of course, we want to make an impact in 2019 too, which we are doing. I also wanted to mention quick a minute that Bill has volunteered to do little short snippet videos that we can then publish on our social media. And Leah and Ezra were mentioned a little bit earlier in this meeting, the founders of Indivisible. They follow our Twitter feed. They retweet our tweets every now and then. You do a video telling the world why it is that you are inspired and to be a part of Prescott Indivisible. People are going to see that. One thing that I've certainly noticed in the time that I've been doing this over the past few months is that when we generate our own content, when we do things that come organically from Prescott Indivisible, we get attention for that. It's some of the best stuff that we can do. Now, every day I curate Twitter, I pull, different things off of Twitter from folks who are saying interesting things or things that are in the news cycle or about the issues. So we're doing that as well. But it would be really fantastic if we could generate more content that comes directly from PI, and that personal stuff is just a really great stuff to do. So I would strongly encourage anybody who is willing to do that, please do. It's helpful. Okay, as you can see here, so I took over Twitter about the beginning of February, and we've been working on it consistently since then, and right now we are up to 3,888 followers, which is, it's okay. It's a number that grows a little bit every day. We're going to be up over 4,000 and on. Frankly, there's no number that's big enough. The bigger that number is, the more people are going to see the things that we're doing. And that is what really gives us influence in social media, and also gets the attention not just of random people, but politicians, the media, things like that. And we certainly intend to do that with the things that we have coming up here in 2019, and certainly when the election cycle really kicks in 2020. Again, if you are interested in being a part of this, there really isn't a whole lot to it. There's some training that it involves. Mavis is super awesome at doing the trainings, and this is going to be an ongoing thing. So we would really love to get as many folks on board with it as possible. Thank you.
John Lutz has already mentioned that the Democratic Party is having their meeting Thursday, June 13th at 5:30. It starts with the potluck. We are having an LGBTQ demonstration on June the 13th. It starts at 5 o'clock on the square. And so we're going to encourage everyone to come to our demonstration, rally, celebration, and then head directly over to the Democratic Party meeting, because both things are very important for visibility and support for our LGBTQ community and friends. So Charlotte just discussed the transgender military ban, which technically isn't a ban. They can call it not a ban, because what they have said is that a diagnosis of gender dysphoria will mean discharge from the military. So they're not flat out banning transgender. They're saying if you have been diagnosed with that, whatever you want to call it, medical thing, that you will be discharged. And it will also keep out potential recruits. So if they've ever been diagnosed with that, they cannot join the military. Some openly transgender troops that are already serving can stay they're not going to discharge them. However, there is a large question about whether they will be eligible for commendations and promotions given the current climate. Also, if a service member is already serving in the military but has not yet come out, they will be incentivized to stay in the closet at all costs. This will likely lead to service members avoiding medical or mental health treatment completely to avoid a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. An American service member being forced to avoid mental health treatment is dangerous to them and to the security of our nation. That is the point that this has brought us to. And it matters not just for our transgender friends, not just for the transgender people that we love. It matters for every single one of us. And that is something to remember and to keep in mind. I like to bring these outrages to you guys and then give you an action item. There's not one really for this, except that you should be very loud and very persistent with Kirsten Sinema and McSally in that we are not accepting this. This is unacceptable, and as Charlotte said, we've been here before, and history did not treat us kindly with good reason. Okay, and so unfortunately, there have been several attacks on the transgender community recently, and I am going to mention them and then give you an action item so that then you can feel like you can fix it. Okay, that one's so tiny. Look how tiny. Anyway, I'll come back to that one. Okay, so this one just came out of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is run by Ben Carson. He is actually not the one who sent out this proposal, although I'm sure his approval is on it. The man's name is David Wohl, and I have his contact information right here because I thought somebody might want it. So what this means, and at this point it's still a proposal, but it would allow homeless shelters to require trans clients to use bathrooms or sleeping accommodations that match the sex they were assigned at birth. This proposed rule does not dictate a required basis for making the sex determination. So that leaves it wide open for what each shelter may decide they think they need to do in order to follow this rule. So the man's name is David Wohl, and I'm also trying to do less paper, but I did make little papers with his contact information. You know, I'm often asked, like, what do you think that's really going to do? Right? Like cynical, what is it really going to do? Well, I'll tell you a couple things it's going to do. The first one is he's going to know that we know who he is. Your name's on it. You can't hide behind Ben Carson. Your name is on it. I actually have a printout of the actual proposal. His name's at the bottom of it. And he also knows that we see, and we're not going to forget, and we do not accept this behavior. So you can call him. You can write him a nice letter. You could send him a postcard. You could call him some more and write him some more. Okay, so the next one, unfortunately there's one more, is the trans healthcare discrimination. So this one came from, it's a proposal to roll back the protections that the Obama administration put for civil rights protections, which safeguard against discrimination against trans medical patients, also against women who'd previously had an abortion. So those, correct. During the ACA, there were protections put in place that a woman who had previously had an abortion could not be discriminated against by a doctor or a clinic. That is also on the chopping block at this point. In addition to, trans medical patients, and then also the health insurance customers. So the Obama era rules said that the insurance company couldn't deny you because you're trans or because you want treatment for trans. This is what is being proposed to go away. The Obama era rules made a definition of sex, meaning internal sense of gender, which may be different from the sex assigned at birth. But of course, states and religious medical providers sued. And in December of 2016, actually, a judge blocked that particular definition, although he has not issued a final ruling. So that is also up in the air. Okay, so the guy in charge of this one, and I happen to have his information as well. I don't know why it is doing that. Well, and I also have ones I can hand out. Okay, so he is in charge of trying to roll back these protections. And I will just read you a quote from this man named Roger Severino. Okay. The radical left is using government power to coerce everyone, including children, into pledging allegiance to a radical new gender ideology over and above their right to privacy, safety, and religious freedom. So that's where he's coming from, and his official title, is Director of the Office of Civil Rights at Health and Human Services.
There's a fox in every hen house.
Correct. That is the administration we are dealing with now. That is exactly what happened. Yes. So please call these gentlemen. Please let them know our dissatisfaction and that we will not tolerate it. I mean, it is unacceptable for American citizens to be treated this way. It is unacceptable for American veterans to be treated this way, and we will not stand for it. And so that is part of why we are doing a demonstration on Thursday afternoon, but it is also, Pride Month, and we're the Human Rights Team, and we like to get out and show visibility. And in some cases, the allies are standing in for folks who do not feel safe enough to come out and demonstrate themselves. So we will have rainbow flags and rainbow stickers. And last year, it was just really full of love and a wonderful occasion, and I think it will be again. And we have somewhere to go afterwards this time as well. So I only have a couple more minutes, and I'm going to switch gears just a tiny bit because Clifford mentioned something that I was going to talk about. So Planned Parenthood is an amazing organization, always worth your time, always worth your donations. Also, the ACLU of Missouri is heavily involved in trying to stop what is going on there. If you are able or willing to make a donation, I believe that the ACLU of Missouri is a great place to do it. When we were planning our presentation, we talked about telling personal stories, and we're just about out of time, so I am going to tell just a quick personal story on this particular topic. My unplanned pregnancy was terrifying, absolutely terrifying, and however, I was so extremely fortunate and lucky to have an amazing support system that so many women do not have. And I was not forced by my government to continue that pregnancy. I chose to continue that pregnancy. And I was thinking about it the other day, that even 13 years later, I still feel so much power in that choice that I made, because it was a choice. It wasn't forced upon me. It should never be forced upon anyone. And the things that are happening, and you can probably see them, Missouri, Alabama, Ohio, Georgia. I have the ACLUs of all of them. All of this has been planned for years and years and years, and it's finally coming to fruition. And my hope is that it's too late, that it took them too long, we are too riled up, and we are too organized, and they're going to go down screaming, but it's going to stop. And I also happen to believe in putting out what you want to happen. So that's what I want us all. This news is disheartening and devastating, and it happens every day, and it can really start to weigh. And so I would just like to leave you with the idea of putting out, cynicism gets us nowhere. Put out the world that you want to see and what you believe it should be, and send it to those gentlemen. Make them see the world you want to see, and then we just might get there. That's all I'm got.
On that note, I would like to thank everyone for being here today, and to the newcomers, I hope that you've been inspired. I hope all of us have been inspired to go out and give it one more go. And I think in a positive manner. You know, if they go low, we go high, and that's all we can do, and continue to fight the fight. Have a wonderful weekend, and if anybody has anything, don't forget to go visit our visiting neighbors, sign the petitions, and we'll see you back here on the 12th of July, 6 o'clock, and I hope to have some stories about, you know, why immigrants are America. Thank you very much, and have a good evening. Drive safely.